So fluid intelligence is how the brain operates, especially in high performers in their 20s and 30s. It focuses on using working memory.
Right.
It focuses on innovation, individual problem solving, and indefatigable focus, hardcore focus. So if you're really good at what you do as a lawyer, as anything in the intellectual professions, air traffic controller, electrician, all these are intellectual professions, fundamentally. You're going to be really good at those things. I remember anything. I can crack a problem by myself if I put my mind to it. I can focus for a really long time on things that I'm interested in. And by the way, this does not rule out anybody with ADHD, because ADHD people are better at focusing on what they're good at than people who don't have ADHD. Yeah, I mean, I have a son who's a Marine sniper. And they were saying when he was in high school he had ADHD, and he could sit 3 hours behind the scope of a rifle with a tarantula on his arm sitting in a bush.
Yes.
And like, no problem.
That's right.
Because that's indefatigable focus. That's an aspect, and he's extremely high in fluid intelligence, is how this works. That increases and increasing. It makes you a star at what you do. It's the reason you got promoted before your friends. That peaks at 39. That neurophysiologically peaks at 39. And that's when working memory starts to degrade. That's when innovation starts to degrade. That's when focus starts to degrade. And that feels like failure. And that's the reason that burnout for so many people happens in their mid-40s, because they're on the wrong side of their fluid intelligence curve. And like, what used to be easy is now hard. What used to be hard is now impossible. And that's why your dentist starts taking Fridays off when she's 43. That's why. Yeah. It's because it's like, I'm not making progress anymore.
Right.
Now, that's the bad news. The good news, there's a second intelligence curve that comes in behind it. This is all the work of Raymond Cattell, this great British social psychologist who was the world's greatest expert in intelligence in the 1960s and 70s. Crystallized intelligence is not based on innovation and working memory and individual achievement. It's based on wisdom, what you know, your ability to teach, and your pattern recognition based on this enormous library that you have. You don't have to worry about working memory. Thank God. I mean, I forget names that I wouldn't. I'm 10 years older than you are. And let me tell you, brother, it doesn't get better, right?
So, yeah.
On the other hand, when you see problems you've never seen before, you weirdly know how to solve them. And the reason is because you've got a big library. Your filing system in your library is messed up, which is why it takes time for you to recall things. Your individual innovation isn't as good, but you can recognize talent and put ideas together. When I was 35, I was writing academic journal articles that were so mathematically sophisticated, I can't read them today. But now I write for a public audience. I have a Science of Happiness column in The Atlantic, comes out every Thursday morning, and it's 1,500 words for 500,000 people, not scientists. The whole point is I can actually, I've been talking about real science in this conversation, and I expect that everybody listening to us is not like, what's he talking about? I'm trying to be understandable. I wouldn't have been able to at 35. At 60, I can actually talk with an intuition about what non-specialists can actually understand, because my job is teaching. My job is not actually plowing ground that's never been plowed. I want to bring together new talent. I want to retail big ideas, because that's what crystallized intelligence is good at. How can you be a teacher, mentor, talent scout, explainer, pattern recognizer? That's what's your crystallized intelligence curve. Maybe that means you're not the star litigator in your law firm. Maybe now you're the managing partner.
Yes.
Maybe not that you used to be a startup entrepreneur, but now you're a venture capitalist.
Yes.
For me, I used to be, writing cutting edge academic research by myself in my office. And now I retail ideas for audiences of millions.
Yeah.
That's what my gift is, because I'm on the right curve.
Yes.
And everybody's got their own right curve. They just have to find it.
Yes. Okay, that is an incredible setup. I want you to watch this question from Dr. Les Parrott, a good friend of mine. Hit that play button. I'll hit it for you.
Okay.
Hey, Arthur, Les Parrott here
Hi,
in
Les.
Seattle. I'm a huge fan of your book, From Strength to Strength. Here's my question. You talk about the shift from fluid to crystallized intelligence in the second half of life. Love that concept. But I'm curious, what's something that you personally had to grieve in order to fully embrace that shift?
Great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. And the reason this is an important question is because anybody who's really deeply involved in their career, they get a lot of their identity from what they do opposed to who they. And I wish I had the presence of mind and the spiritual adroitness that I could say, I'm not my job, I'm just a beloved son of God. I wish I could do that. But I'm a striver. And the brains of strivers, which is your audience, is that it's wired towards success, that satisfaction comes from winning. Satisfaction comes from the approbation of the world, of doing a good job, right? And so the result of that is that you get better and better at what you do, and your identity comes from actually being successful, and that's tied to a particular set of activities. And when you're tired or burned out or in decline or whatever it happens to be, that feels like death. That's what feels like death. Everybody has a death fear. Only 20% of people are actually literally afraid of dying. 80% of us aren't, but we all have a death fear, which is that attack on who we are. And if you're a success-addicted striver, losing your ability to succeed in the way that you've succeeded in the past feels like death. That's really important. For me, that was music the first time. I mean, I didn't love it. I didn't even like it. But man, oh man, I like the applause. And I like the fact that I was, when I was a kid, I was special little Arthur with his French horn, right? And I was growing up, Arthur was I was playing in the first chair in the Barcelona Orchestra. I was the associate principal French horn in the best orchestra in the Mediterranean region. And that was status for me. I was objectifying myself by being by being a position, not being a person. And tearing that away was really important in my late 20s because it gave me a lot more comfort with what was to come, right? When I left the American Enterprise Institute as president in my mid-50s, I remember I wanted to leave. I really wanted to go do something else. And I knew I had to because I knew enough about careers, given my social science background, that you can leave an important leadership job in two ways. There's two ways to leave an important leadership job. You can leave before you're ready, or you can leave on somebody else's terms.
Yep.
You choose. And I don't like door number 2. So I left in door number 1. And I remember I was on a plane and I was praying, Lord, help me to make the right decision that I don't want to make because I'm afraid. I'm afraid. And I wasn't grieving it. I was just fearful. I was fearful. It was my death fear. It was like, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to leave this important job as a president of this think tank. It's not that important, but you get for me, it felt important, right? And I'm going to go do this new thing, and probably it's not going to succeed. And I'm going to try to start a happiness business. What the heck is that? What are you talking about, right? My wife was like, yeah, sure, I don't care. Let's do it. I just love you, right? Yeah. But for me, I was like, this is probably going to fail, and I'm going to feel like a nobody for the rest of my life. And grieving is one thing, right? Because of the loss of something, that's sadness. Right? That uses a part of your limbic system called the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, which is the feeling of losing something that you love or being socially rejected. When somebody gets fired from something that they really like, that's what gives them the sense of grief. I didn't have that. It was my amygdala saying, threat. This is a threat. This is a threat to your image of who you are as a person. And so I was just afraid, and that's a pride problem, is what it comes. Now, okay, this might sound like neurobiological hair splitting, but the truth of the matter is that I had to have a whole lot of faith in going through that. The first one, leaving music, was just really, really hard. The second one, leaving my job as a president at the age of 55 and hoping for the best, that I was not going to go from who's who to who's he, suddenly was really, really important for me to get through, because then I had to embrace the risk and say, being important is less important than doing what I believe is God's will for my life.